This is Liu Kai Tract and Liukaitrac. I'd like to speak on the subject with the experience that I have encountered with, or the experience I have spoken to Dr. Steve Manning, an award-winning astrophysicist and a consultant to NASA, who came to the Pensacola Regional Public Library in Florida a few years ago, and he presented a subject on the solar eclipse. I never heard of the presentation. I have very little knowledge on the subject, but yet my understanding is astonished him. When 45 minutes or so, he gave a presentation on the solar eclipse. Apparently, my suppose that he traveled out of the nation to give such a presentation, and uh, the solar eclipse. One of the interesting characteristics about the solar eclipse is that a term that's called an annular solar eclipse. The annular solar eclipse described by Dr. Steve Manning that if a annular solar eclipse occurs, it will require 360 years before the next annular eclipse can be witnessed. Annular eclipse is the characteristic behaviors in physical science is when the Earth and the Moon distance is the greatest distance when the Moon blocks the Sun. That's solar eclipse. But because the greatest distance that the Sun and the Earth and the Moon, that is called annular eclipse due to the nature of the Moon orbit around the Earth in a non-circle, a perfect circle, just like the Earth orbit around the Sun in a non-perfect circle. So it is a ecliptical circle. And so sometimes the radius is short, sometimes the radius is greatest, and the greatest moment that's called annular solar eclipse, and it requires 360 years. So at the time, Dr. Steve Manning said that if it happened, annual solar eclipse in Pensacola, because the presentation was in Pensacola, it is understood, occurs anywhere in the world. But the Pensacola would require 360 years to see another annular solar eclipse. Obviously, none of us can live that long, but the next generation of Pensacola and record data will be written, and I suppose that's how Dr. Steve Manning discovered, and in his years as a scientist, I think he has about almost 30 years, if I remember, as a scientist, and naturally, the keen analytical mind that I have, that I rely heavily, not because of expertise knowledge I have or vast knowledge I have that Dr. Steve Manning may have, is that it's a vast data from the astronomy subject, the world that they collect, and with some analysis and the equation they perform naturally, I would expect, and they come up with the idea of 360 years, and it is so. And if it's 360 years, then the Japan and Beijing, yeah, they would have to wait 360 years. Mexican and Mexico would have wait 360 years, and anywhere human being around the world will have to wait for 360 years to see the next annular eclipse with respect to that region that year. And so after the meeting, and I approached Dr. Manning, invite the public, in which I'm one of them. A few of us attended, and I approached Dr. Steve Manning, and I said, Dr. Manning, if there was time, I would like to ask you questions all night long, because I can and I will, if it was time or permit, I would chat with him. It was in a form of question, because I do not have vast knowledge. In fact, I have virtually no knowledge on the subject, but a keen analytical mind I do possess. It's just like Jesus at the age of 12. He spoke with those uh, experts on the subject of Bible at age 12. Here I am. Uh, I have no knowledge of the subject, but I will, and I did speak with Dr. Steve Manning. And then in my years past, of the last few years, I have spoken with professor of physics and many other physicists as well. and a few others that are of well versed in the subject. But with regard to Dr. Steve Manning, and so I approached him and said, Dr. Manning, may I confirm the subject of your expertise, to confirm my understanding of it. Let me use an analogy, and I often use analogy like Jesus would use parables, and I do. And I said, Dr. Manning, there's a song I've heard on radio. It's a country music. It's always 5 o'clock somewhere. The song would go the idea, what would Jimmy Buffett do? And of course the lyric continue. I don't care. It's quarter after 2, but it's always 5 o'clock somewhere. And that song, and so I spoke. And I asked Dr. Manning, does this song, the lyric, the idea, the message have to do or correspond to annual solar eclipse? Now, annular solar eclipse is a physical sign. The music always 5 o'clock. The song, it's just a soft sign. I call it yes. And Dr. Steve Manning was surprised at first that he thought that I insulted him or something, because the look on his face, he was taking a bet. He was surprised. What does the song? And he said, what does a song always 5 o'clock somewhere have to do with annual solar eclipse, a physical sign? And so I was allowed a few minutes, and I explained to Dr. Steve Manning what I meant, how this 5 o'clock always music, country music, connect or correspond or unify, if I may use this term in the sense of grand unification theory, unifying with this physical sign of annual solar eclipse. And I said that annual solar eclipse is 360 years that people would have to wait for it. 5 o'clock is always 5 o'clock around the world, regardless. Uh, if we have 5 o'clock in Pensacola, we have to wait for 24 hours before we see the next 24-hour 5 o'clock. That is assuming 5 p.m. to 5 p.m. Obviously, 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. is only 12 hours. 5 a.m. to 5 a.m. naturally is a 24 hours period. And any Pensacola would have to wait 24 hours. If it happened here in Lexington, Kentucky, which where I'm speaking right now, yeah, we Lexingtonian would have to wait 24 hours before we see the next 5 p.m. or 5 a.m. Regardless, and with a little humor, I would say, why would the songwriter say 5 p.m. or 5 o'clock? Maybe because of dinner time. He could have said 4 o'clock somewhere, 3 o'clock somewhere, 2 o'clock somewhere, anytime, always somewhere. But he chose 5 o'clock in the song, humorously speaking, I think probably because of dinner time. So annual solar eclipse, yes. Annual solar eclipse is 360 years rather than 24 hours. And after I explained that way, and I said, Dr. Manning, does that make sense? And you know what Dr. Steve Manning said? And he looked at me. He said, yes. Now this is confirmed by Dr. Steve Manning, an expert on the subject. At 12 years old, Jesus was. He spoke to the experts on the subject of biblical theology. Here I am, an unlearned man, and very virtually ignorant on the subject. I spoke with Dr. Steve Manning, an award astrophysics winning and a consultant to NASA, nearly 30 years as a scientist. It was quite an honor when I look at it, and I thank God for the wisdom. Thank God the reflection of a child Jesus at age 12 that astonished those experts on the subject of Bible. Here I am, virtually ignorant on the subject, yet I astonish Dr. Steve Manning. And this is the idea. And I wish I had time that I could devote into the subject. I have spoken over 1,000 hours in the last 2 or 3 years in private moments such as this on more than 10 different scientific subjects. Astronomy, I spend most of the time on astronomy. I spoke about supernova, black hole. I spoke about Back to the Future. I spoke 1,000 hours spoke about geology, mathematical language, neurology, DNA, and touch on a little bit music theory. I love the just the analytical mind of my observing. And I've written 22 handwritten pages on the Constitution, and written 1,000 words on the Constitution in regarding to in regarding to Chief Justice of Supreme Court Alabama, two cases that he involved in 2000, the year 2000, the other case 1993. My my writing could have defended Justice, Roy Moore, judge, as a circuit judge in 1993. But the idea is that the Constitution, Ten Commandments he has displayed in his courtroom, other judges refuse to see it that way. And they filed a lawsuit, and Judge Roy Moore lost the case, and the Ten Commandments was removed from his courtroom. Now, 2000, he did it again, when he elected as a Chief Justice of Supreme Court of Alabama. The case of 2000 is slightly different. My viewpoint, my legal argument couldn't defend him on that. But in the 1993 case, Constitution is like this. I often give it an analogy. If I was a banker, a manager, it's absolutely my Constitution to put a picture of my family, picture of my affection, space apple, space shuttle, a subject of any of my affection in my office. It's my constitutional right. That's my place of employment. If I would put anything in my office, as long as it does not pose any dangers or any hazard to other human being in the bank office or in the bank building, it's my constitutional right to put a picture, certainly a picture of my affection. And if you were the manager of the bank, it's absolutely your constitution to put a picture of your family if you like, a picture of your dog if you like, a picture of any of your affection that you would like. As long that all of those artifacts or subjects that is within your office. So as a bank manager, I would do the same, and I respect the right of my colleague next door office. He put the picture of his family as his constitutional right, and I wouldn't put my picture in his office without his consent. Neither would he put his affection for any object in my office without my consent. Now that's constitution, and we could apply that in virtually many different walks of life, besides a bank manager. Now, in the courtroom, Judge Roy Moore presided courtroom. That's his place of employment, just like my office as a bank manager. And Judge Roy Moore presided judge. Should he put a 10 Commandment, 10 wooden 10 Commandment in his courtroom, which is right behind the bench. As long as the 10 Commandment does not pose any chemical or any visible obstruction or any physical obstruction in the events of earthquake, fire, or natural catastrophe, that all people in the courtroom need to read for safety concern. Now that is absolutely the Constitution of Judge Roy Moore, especially with the background experience. Judges in that very courtroom, they prayed before. It's just a group of judges who rebels against biblical teaching and would like to have him remove the 10 Commandments and so forth. And if as long as those 10 Commandments in his presiding room, venue, is naturally his constitution. Now he wouldn't have the right to place the 10 Commandments in his colleague or judge or colleague judge venue without their consent. And that's the constitutional viewpoint of my legal argument, which in this case I think you can defend Judge Roy Moore. And I shared that with a few people in Pensacola and Florida. Everyone of them raised no objection. In fact, everyone thought that was a very, very logical, very, very brilliant defensive argument. And here going to this is how I see Judge Roy Moore in a legal argument. But anyway, right now I am confined by these 27 years of government conspiracy, uh, 10 years of federal prisons, and 10 years of homelessness. I'm still speaking homeless using this Lexington, Kentucky Public Library area. And so I hope that the public look at my Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Google Plus, mostly Facebook and YouTube, where the story that I call my life story, give me liberty or give me depth, how I combat, how I fight against. 3 months ago that I finally woke up, realized that this conspiracy of mind manipulation and control for the last 27 years, that I finally speaking up against this conspiracy. And naturally, there's a lot of resistance. And so you see other YouTube, other video, other Facebook. It's just not right now computer, and that the conspiracy worked very hard to erase, to lock in my Facebook and my Twitter. My Facebook, as of now, just about 4 weeks of starting with Facebook, I have 800,000 supporters on Facebook, friends and friends and friends and so forth. That speak for itself, the record in itself. The public support my combat against this government conspiracy, and of course I have not spoken much of this 1,000 hours on Facebook or YouTube because I've been so busy working on this. And Morgan Law Firm, that I thought at one time was the best law firm in the nation, as 2015, that I consult them to represent me, only find out they lie and they conspire. It's on Facebook. Check it out, please. YouTube as well. How Morgan and Morgan Law Firm has lied and conspire, or under the influence of government conspiracy. And to say the least, John Morgan of Morgan Law Firm with 308 lawyers in the nation must have a very strong relationship, some sort of close relationship with the conspirators that is, one of which I would consider Evan Bayh among the top of them. That John Morgan must have a close relationship in order to make such a strong, or display such strong interest to protect this multi-state government conspiracy. When with Stephanie Vance from Morgan & Morgan, who purposely and deliberately and strategically goading me into the representation of wrongful arrest, when it is a 27-year of government conspiracy from McDonald's, Burger King, Hardy, CVS, Walgreens, Walmart, churches, from Catholic, Southern Baptist, Presbyterian, Nazarene, and many other I can't even think of right now. That is, and then the business and charity organization and the homeless shelters and so forth for the last 10 years. I have experienced it, and it's difficult for me right now on my own. So I'm asking you, the public, my friends, my fans, my supporters, give me your lending help, and look at Facebook, YouTube, and all that I have. Share it, post it, paste it to your friends, to your church Facebook, to your state and federal church Facebook, state